Hey everybody, I think you know what this is. This is the much hyped CZ P10 subcompact. Okay, no, we're still waiting for that one, but this is the other one. This is the Sig 365 that everybody's talking about, and I know there are a ton of videos on YouTube about this right now. It's super hyped, and I just thought I'd give my little take on it. I got this last week. I've had it to the range 3 times now. I've shot roughly right at 500 rounds, and I've had 0 gun-induced errors, malfunctions. I have had a couple of operator errors as I was experimenting with some of my grips, but nothing I can blame on the gun so far. It's been very reliable. I've shot all kinds of ammunition in it. I've shot everything from 115 grain Federal Champion, Blazer Brass. I've shot 124 Aguila, Freedom Munitions, 147 grain Freedom Munitions, some Remington. I've shot just about everything, and it's handled everything. And I will say the 147 grain does make this a very soft shooter. And a couple things I just wanted to talk about. A lot of things. There's a lot of videos about a lot of malfunctions, and this is the new version. This is one of the ones that they released after they stopped production, and they re-released it with a couple of little upgrades where they tinkered with it a little bit. They went inside and did some relief cuts and some milling about, and they put a new guide rod spring. They changed the stock Sig sights with the X-ray sights, which is a big deal. That was one of the reasons that I did pull the trigger on buying this, because I usually don't like the stock night sights, either if it's Glock or the Sigs. I feel you pay a premium for them, and I don't really like them, so you kind of get stuck with them. And that was a really good thing I thought Sig did. And Sig knows there's a lot of these videos out, and when they heard all these problems starting to go about, they stopped this really quick. They wanted to stop the problems before it got out of hand. Everybody knows they just spent a lot of money on the 320 voluntary recall upgrades, and they probably didn't want to get involved in nothing like that again. And so I think they stopped it really quick, and they didn't want to get it out of hand. We know there's been other guns that have come out in the recent past where they're still putting band-aids on those guns for a year and a half still. And hopefully they've worked the bugs out of this. This is a safety checked gun. It's not loaded, just so everybody knows. But we've all seen the videos about the malfunctions, especially on the first batch that went out. And I know there's one in particular, or several of the Harry holsters, that a lot of people talk about probably the most. But there is a rebuttal video, and that's one of the reasons I was confident in getting this. I can't remember the guys who did the video, but they actually had Harry's actual gun he sent them, and they took it out and they shot the heck out of it, and basically they couldn't get a malfunction out of it. And so I think a lot of it was operator error, but there did seem to be also some problems with the gun that Sig needed to work out, and hopefully they did. And so far with me, 500 rounds or so, no problems. And so I just want to talk about a couple things. The value. We've all seen how much these things are going for on Gunbroker. I mean, there's people paying 800 plus for these, and if you've got a lot of money to throw around, I guess you can do whatever you want. But I don't see this gun being worth more than maybe $500 to me. I paid $458, and I thought that was a pretty good deal. And if you compare that to what I paid for my original Glock 43 Blue Label, which is the discount program, I think I paid $377-ish for that, plus tax, and then adding some Trigicon HDs, which was another 130 or more bucks for that. And the stippling on the Glock, I put on a Talon grip so I could get a better grip on that. And so I paid more for my Glock 43 to get it somewhat, and the value of this gun. And it just depends how much you pay for it. If you paid $800 for this, you're not going to get a whole lot of value. But I think if you get it for around $500, I think one shop around me had them for $549. That might be the most I might see reasonable paying for it, but it's up to you. It's your money. They're hard to find. Hot guns usually sell more. People are willing to pay for them. But there's a lot of value in this gun if you're reasonable with it. You compare it with some of the other guns in this class. The only gun I have comparable is the Glock 43, similar size, a little bigger. But for what you get, everybody knows it's got the 10-round magazine flush. So huge upgrade there. The size and weight of it, it's just a very nice micro pistol. It's got a lot of things I like. It's got the Sigs stippling, which I think is kind of a moderate stippling, which I like. I can get a good grip on this. I don't have to put a Talon grip on there or anything. I think the finish of the polymer, even though it's thinner, so they could come up with this gun, but it seems a little bit better than the 320. It wasn't scratched right out of the box like the 320s are. It's got a lot of other little things. It's got the proprietary rail where they're going to put their own lights and everything that they're supposed to be coming out with. It's got everything. It's got, compared to my 43, they gave you the serrations. You got the great X-ray night sights. And for me, Sig finally has their signature trigger. And I know what you said, at least for the striker fired. None of you think they have the 320, that's their signature gun. They put it in the military, making lots of money through that contract. They've got some law enforcement contracts. They spent a ton of money on that voluntary recall program. And I think this is the evolution of the 320. There's obviously some things that you compare to it. It's obviously based on that loosely, but it's also got a lot of other different things. And the one thing, the 320 has that simple trigger that's actually not bad, but this is really nice. When they talk about the sound of glass breaking on trigger, that is very close. That is a nice break on that trigger. The pre-travel, there's virtually nothing to it. There is that little bit of movement, but it's super smooth. There's nothing there. It's just super smooth. And then when you hit that, it's not, when you start to pull the trigger, that's not the very first movement that sets it off, but it's just a minuscule amount of over travel. And then you got a super nice break that's nothing like the 320. This puts this trigger with some of the nicer ones. It's maybe not like the PPQ or anything like that, but it at least puts it up there in the respectable level. It moves it up a whole notch above the 320. I think this is really going to be their signature gun because this isn't where it's going to stop. This is their micro gun. It's basically the size of a single stack, even though it's not a single stack. But you got to think they're going to have a 380 come out of this. Maybe they'll have an actual compact size, full size. I can't believe that they're not going to take full advantage of this gun if it proves to be reliable. And so far it's looking good. We know it's Sig. We know they're going to be tinkering with it. If they're anything like their 320s, they'll have a generation 1, 1.5, 2 within a year. But so far, at least my experience has been pretty good. And I think some of the things that I did find out when I induced some errors, I started out, I did it on accident, is I'm going to pull this apart, but I'm going to show you. Everybody's pretty careful not to hit the slide release, but what I found is when I set this off is after about 150 rounds or so, the first day on the range, I was experimenting with my grip. I did put my thumb on the takedown lever and I induced an error. A malfunction. I actually got the slide didn't lock. It didn't lock open. And on another time when I did it, the slide prematurely locked open with about 2 rounds still left in the magazine. And the next day at the range, I tried to, reenact that a couple of times, and it doesn't do it every time, but when you put pressure on that, it can cause a malfunction. I proved it to myself, and basically my solution was, just avoid that, don't do it. And amazingly, when I shot it earlier today, I shot, another 150 rounds or so, and 0 malfunctions. I didn't try to induce any malfunctions. At that time, I had my grip down. I knew the way I wanted to operate the gun by then. And I think that's a lot of what people are doing is because they know not to hit the slide catch. But I think a lot of people may be hitting that takedown lever. And I'll show you what I mean by that. When we take this apart, there's a couple things that you'll know. And that is, these are all interconnected. The operation of everything in here is basically connected together. And we'll show you what we mean by that. Okay, we're going to take it down. Okay. So let's try to see everything I'm doing. Okay. All right, when you're going to put this back together, you see how this doesn't come all the way down. It kind of gets stuck right there. So what they want you to do is they want you to lift up on that initially, and that frees this. And so what you're supposed to do is hold that down with your thumb, and then you put your slide back on. But I'll show you a couple of things. You already know that if you have to operate this to release that the functions are intertwined a little bit. But we'll show you what else happens when you move this takedown lever. You see anything else? And so I think maybe you can see the potential that you could have a problem here if you put pressure on this takedown lever. Because everything is connected. Everything operates off each other. And so I think that might be what people were doing. I think there were some other issues that Sigs went to fix. But I think when you put some pressure on there, and that's what happened. When I tried to look in there to see what you might can do by putting that on there, but you got remember also there's recoil energy coming from when you're shooting the gun as well. If you're putting your thumb on there, you're getting some recoil energy. It looks like that might be what was causing some of those malfunctions, and people were just not used to expecting something like that. And so I did it. I did it a couple of times. I did it on purpose, did it on accident, and once I left it alone, didn't touch it, it never happened again. And so just something to think of. And so again, you got to lift that up to release that, push down, and put that back on there. Yep. Okay. And I think that's what caused some of those malfunctions. I did clean it up after the range today. At the range today, I shot this, shot a couple other things. So I shot that was the smallest one I shot. Then, shot this. So had a good time today. But I think if people just learn how to shoot the gun, get a little practice with the grip, I think you'll see a lot less of these malfunctions. I do think this is going to be their signature gun if it proves reliable. I'm expecting a 380 out of there, and in the instruction booklet it does say in the back that all Sig 365 models come a certain way, so that makes me think that yes, there probably is going to be some different models, variations coming out, and we know they're probably going to put frames or whatever, but I think this is something to build on. I honestly don't know where that leads the 320. They've got so much money invested in that. I mean, here is one of the 12 rounders. And if you're having a hard time finding the 12 rounders, Sig does have them in stock. We ordered these a few days back. And if you sent in your 320 for the recall, they sent you, or they did me, a couple of them, a 25% off coupon. And so I used that 25% coupon and got free shipping, and got a pretty good deal, as good of a deal as you can expect for getting that discount. But with this, I just don't know where it puts this. I mean, here's the gun I did a review on. This is my post recall. This is when I put that Apex advanced flat face trigger on it. This is a decent feeling gun. It's also safety checked, but that's 12 rounds. That's 12 rounds. I mean, it's hard to figure out how marketing is going to be there, because who is going to go want to buy that unless you just really can't handle a small gun? I mean, if you got really large hands, I can understand that this may not be something that you want, but I can't see a whole lot of people wanting to get 12 rounds out of this. I'm sorry about my camera, but I just can't see it. I mean, it's still, especially if you want to go 10 rounds, if you're really wanting to conceal. If you're not wanting to conceal, with that 12 rounds, it's just hard to see where the 320 is going to be after this, especially if they start building off of this model, which I think they'd be really foolish to not capitalize on all the attention they're getting on 365 right now. There's a lot of other things. Basically, I see that as a kitchen sink type of gun, similar to the Legion, but the polymer striker fired. And about the only thing I noticed on there that they didn't throw in, I mean, they threw in about everything you could put on a striker. The reset on the trigger, I mean, you basically reset all the way back to that initial break where we had the pre-travel, then you had that break. You pretty much go all the way back. But surprising thing about the 365 and the trigger is you see that, and you see a lot of hammer fired guns in particular where you go almost all the way back on that trigger, and you say, it's a long trigger, and it's really not. I mean, you look at actually where it breaks and how far you actually go back. See, they're not moving. It's not a long pull at all, and it is crisp as can be. And here's that reset. If I can capture this. So pretty much all the way back to the break. So, and then you just had to have a little bit of play right there. That's the only thing I see that they really didn't take to the next level on this gun, and it's not bad. It's not a bad reset at all. I'm not complaining about that. It's just the one thing I noticed when they went all out pretty much on everything else. And it's funny. I know we got fanboys that look at all these videos, they hunt every one of them up, and they're just waiting for you to say one bad thing about their gun, or you're throwing off on somebody else's gun, and you see the same guys over and over. And I was actually on a CZ group earlier, and someone posted this on a CZ group that he got a new 365, and immediately, that's a piece of junk, that's inferior, and it was a P10 group, and I had to double check to see what group I was in. I was like, okay, we're in a P10 group, dissing on a gun that may have potential problems. Okay, it's the fanboy versus reality. And this is, again, we're going to have to give a chance, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of tinkering with it, but I can only talk about my experience. 500 rounds, no malfunctions, I didn't do myself. I do think a lot of it is operator error, and I think there were some things that they changed for the better. And we'll see if people start shooting, thousands more rounds in here. But if you can look at that one video where the guy's shooting Harry's holsters gun, and they couldn't get a malfunction out of the old model, or I hate saying old model, it was still brand new. But that's about all. Can't really think of anything else that I can say about it that hasn't already been said. I'll just say that at least for me, everything has been pretty good so far. We'll start putting some more rounds in it and see how it goes. Hope it helps somebody. Thanks.